Hey, it's Avi, and today I'm sharing 3 powerful tips that you can use to take that normal, boring, old chord progression and make it spicy and flavorful and refined and advanced. Much of the time, advanced harmony will use non-diatonic chords. These are chords that fall outside of our regular home key. So if we're in C major, maybe we're using chords from G major or D major or F major, whatever. Knowing just a few techniques to help you access some of these other keys and other modes, little word popping up here that we're going to talk about later, will get you so far in writing some amazing, beautiful, expressive chord progressions. Let's start with secondary dominance. Now, we most often hear the tonic-dominant relationship played out in what's called a cadence. Now, this is a harmonic event that is usually at a structurally significant point in a piece. In this relationship, the dominant pushes us forward towards the tonic. Often this feels like coming from a place of tension to a place of rest. But we don't only have to use the dominant found in our home or parent key. We can also use other dominants for other chords in our key, hence secondary dominance. The trick to making this all work is a technique called tonicization. So what we're doing here is we're taking other chords in the key and making them feel like the tonic instead of our regular tonic in our home key. Let's talk about the dominant a little bit more. How are we going to find out what the dominant is of some of these other chords? The dominant is the major chord built off of the 5th scale degree. So if we're in C major, we're trying to find our dominant, we just need to count to 5, C, D, E, F, G. G major is our dominant. Right? Can you hear the kind of tension and release? So if we're trying to find the dominant of our dominant, let's say, then we need to do the exact same thing. We just need to take G and count to 5 up from there. So G, A, B, C, D. D major would be the dominant of G major. So that would be a secondary dominant in C major, or a chord progression based in C major. Let's do that right now. Let's build a chord progression and throw a secondary dominant in there. Okay, that was cool. But we can really up the ante and focus the tension if we turn some of these into dominant 7th chords. So that's a secondary dominant. Next, let's talk about modal mixture, also called modal borrowing, is when we swap out one chord for our chord progression for its counterpart in a parallel mode. Now, a mode is kind of used interchangeably between key and scale in this case, and we can keep using it like that, though there is a distinction. Let me know if you want me to make a video about that. A parallel mode is when we're looking at 2 different keys or scales or modes, and they share the same root. Right? So C major and C minor are parallel modes. Another way to say this would be that if we're in C major, C minor is the parallel minor. When we're borrowing chords, it's most common to stay within the realm of major and minor. You can get a lot done even with just that. Now, as you might imagine, this means you need to know the chord qualities for each key. Right? You need to know what the major and minor chords are in a major scale and what the major and minor chords are in a minor scale. So you know which ones to swap out for one another. But that doesn't mean there are other modes that you can't borrow from, like Dorian, Lydian, Phrygian. Those sound amazing, so definitely use those as well. The same rules apply though. Make sure that you know those scales, know those modes inside and out, so you can make sure that you will do this effectively. So I'm going to take a chord progression. I'm going to do it normal-like. I'm going to do that hit song chord progression that we all have heard millions of times before. You know, 1, 5, 6, 4, right? And then just do that. But then after I play that once or twice, I'm going to do some modal borrowing, and you're going to hear for yourself just how awesome this can be. neat, right? What we did was we took our flat 6, which is a major chord in a minor scale, and swapped it out for our normal 6 in major, which is a minor chord. So we had this really wonderful uplifting feeling that was also deflating at the same time. We were going down but going up at the same time. For me, I really love the movement from that A flat major down to that F major. Oh, love it. All right, so that was modal mixture. Now let's talk about our final powerful tip for super awesome advanced chord progressions, and that is common tone chord extensions. It's pretty jargony. All right, let's break this down. A common tone is when we have two chords that share the same note. For example, if we're using C, that's C, E, G. And then if we go to an A minor, that's A, C, E. The C and the E there are the common tones between those two chords. Cool, so we got that part down. What about a chord extension? An extension is any interval added above a seventh to any chord, really. So a 9, an 11, a 13, all of that. All of those are chord extensions. Typically, like I said, it's a seventh or above, but seventh chords are really beautiful and really colorful. So I'm gonna let it slide for this one. Just gonna let it slide. Why did I call it common tone chord extensions? It sounds cool. Now what we're really doing here with these common tone chord extensions is we're kind of shortcutting our way into something called voice leading. This is what allows us to make our movements between chords feel seamless and efficient and just sound really good. Solid voice leading can be the difference between something being good and something being great. It's truly that important. That's why there's all these rules that come down from centuries ago that we're still innovating on and following to an extent to this day. The big thing here is that common tones allow for a specific type of motion. Now in voice leading, there's 3 types of motion. There's parallel motion, when you have 2 voices moving in the same direction like this. Then there's contrary motion, which is when 2 voices move in different directions. Then there's oblique motion, where one voice changes and the other stays the same. Right? Did you hear how that C just stayed up there? It's this last kind of motion that common tones create. Oblique motion. It results in this continuity, this thread between the chords. Listen for it. See if you can catch it. That's a great ear training exercise. So we're going to keep our hit song chord progression from last time, and we're going to find a common tone chord extension between those first 2 chords, the C and the G. If we add the F up here, that makes the C major a C add 11. Super pretty. That's great. So where is the F in a G chord? Well, G, B, D. That's how you spell a G major chord. That's not there, right? No F there. But a G dominant 7th chord does include an F. That 7th is an F, G, B, D, F. So we can use that F, carry that over, make that function as the 7th in the G chord, making it a G dominant 7th, and then we're just going to go on our merry way to the chord progression. Let's see how it sounds. All right, so that was our common tone chord extension. Were you able to hear the thread of that F hanging on until we hit the A minor and it resolved down to the E? It adds that extra little something, even though that's an already incredibly popular and an incredibly successful chord progression. Now that you have all of these chord progressions and tools, go make some music. Go have fun with them. And when it's time for you to start thinking about your melodies and thinking about making them as good as you can, I want you to have my free guide handy, 7 ways to write a more effective melody. I've been giving this thing out for years, and over 1,000 people have downloaded it. Way more than 1,000 people actually at this point have downloaded it. A lot of people have gotten back to me and be like, dude, this was amazing. Thank you so much for this. So I want you to be one of those people, and I want you to help me get to that next 1,000. Head to justwritemusic.com to get your free copy. There's a link down in the doobly-doo. Thanks so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I'm Avi, and don't forget to be awesome.